So today I want to go over the top 10 books I read this year. I say top 10, but actually these are just the first 10 books I've read of this year, and 3 of them are audiobooks. So the first book I read this year was The Slight Edge. The Slight Edge is about doing something consistently over a long enough period of time, and that was my main takeaway. I think this book was really amazing to read, especially at the beginning of the year. It allowed me to think about consistency in a different light and made me read 10 pages a day, which got me to read all the other books. So I really like this book. I would highly recommend it, especially if consistency is something that you struggle with. Great book. The next book I read was the second video I made about Getting Things Done by David Allen. I thought this book was really great. It talks about building a framework of how you should organize your things. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more details and examples that he used throughout the book. But that was my main takeaway. That framework, how to organize all that stuff that you need to do in your life in a very organizable and digestible way. So I like it. I would highly recommend this one. The next book I read was actually not a self-help book or improvement book. It was actually Red Rising. This book was recommended by a bunch of creators. So Red Rising is a really great book. It's about this guy that's on Mars, and he lives in this mining colony, very harsh conditions, but he's told it's for the betterment of society, but it's actually not. The government's lying to him, and so it's a really good book. It's kind of like a sci-fi Hunger Games is actually the analogy I think I've heard. I binged probably the second half of this book. I read it straight for 6 hours, so I really liked it. I thought it was a good book. 8 out of 10. Next book I read, not in this list, is the audiobook, The Psychology of Money. I thought this was a really good book. It's very digestible book. It has 20 separate chapters about different financial topics or different financial lessons, and I would highly recommend it. I think it's just such a good read, especially for financial understanding, and if that's something of interest to you, I would recommend it. The next book I read was actually 4,000 Weeks, The Time Management for Mortals. A mentor recommended this book to me after I finished reading the Getting Things Done book. 4,000 Weeks is very different than Getting Things Done. He talks about how he did the hoops and the jumps of trying to manage everything and staying on top of all the tasks in life. And he kind of says that's an impossible task. And he puts in the perspective of we only have 4,000 weeks on this world if we're lucky. So kind of having that frame of reference, it's basically impossible to be this guru that has everything, all their stuff laid out for them. So I thought it was a pretty good book. Actually, I don't know what I would rate it. Maybe 7 out of 10. But I thought it was a good counterpoint to what David Allen talks about. The next book I'll talk about is Sapiens, The Brief History of Humankind, I think is the name of it. It's a great book. And as a quick side note, reading a dense book like that on audiobook is something I don't recommend. I really enjoyed the book. The history of humans and offering that very unique perspective about going through cognitive revolution to the agricultural revolution to the industrial revolution. It's such a unique take about our history, and it offers it in such a unique perspective and lens, which I really enjoyed, and they kind of give some thoughts about how the future will look. I thought it was incredible. I really enjoyed all the different lessons and topics I learned from it. So if you're a big history person and science person, I think it kind of fits the discussion really well. The only thing I would recommend is not listening to a book like that on audio if you can't focus, or unless you're only focusing on what you're listening to when you're reading it. So that's my only thing, but I really love Sapiens. The next book I read around the same time was The Happiest Man on Earth. The Happiest Man on Earth is a book about an Auschwitz survivor named Eddie. It's a beautiful story, and I think it offers a very unique perspective about somebody that went through a very challenging life and how he was able to overcome those things. Incredibly heartfelt. Made me want to hug my mom. I thought it was a beautiful story. I would recommend this book. Another book I read was Never Split the Difference. It's a really good book. It's about negotiating. My main takeaway from Never Split the Difference is that it's okay to negotiate and the value of just say no. Negotiation is very scary. Life is negotiation, and there's so many different aspects of your life that you have to negotiate. So kind of having this in your tool belt to be able to is pretty cool. Some of the lessons in this book, while I read other books, you can actually see and just live through life. You can see a lot of the techniques used in real time, which I thought was pretty cool. It doesn't have to be just a big contract. Life's a negotiation, so I think it's very helpful. The next book, it's Trevor Noah's Born a Crime memoir. I read it on Audible, and I would highly recommend this one on Audible. Trevor Noah being a phenomenal storyteller, a speaker, and really good impressions. This story is just incredible from the start to the end. It's one of the highest rated Audibles I've ever seen on the Audible store. It's so good. I couldn't stop listening to it. The next book I want to talk about is the book I just finished, which is my 10th book of the year, which I'm excited about, which was Deep Work by Cal Newport. The premise of Deep Work is to be able to kind of remove all the distractions in your life and to be able to focus on your work in a deep state. And one of the arguments that Newport makes is that a lot of our work that we do is shallow. We have to be very intentional about our work to kind of get into this deep work state. And I've actually seen tremendous improvement. It allows me to hit that flow state a little bit faster. And so if you want to learn more about that book, it's Deep Work. I thought it was pretty helpful. And especially in today's age with distractions and everything, I would highly, highly, highly recommend this book. And so that's 10 books for 2025 so far in the first quarter, actually. And so if we keep this trend up, we'll be at 40 books, but that's not the worry. We just want to keep, or at least for me, I want to keep learning and keep pushing myself and to be consistent. And so hopefully some of these books are of interest to you. I really like them. And then I'll keep doing my book reviews. And if there's any other books that you recommend, please let me know. As always, my name is Matthew. Please subscribe and everything if you like. Until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.